Emotional wellness is one of the 7 components of wellness. It refers to a person's ability to control and manage stress and appropriately express their emotions. Having a strong sense of emotional wellness allows a person to handle the daily and future obstacles in their lives. In the beginning of the class, I completed a lifestyle assessment inventory where I found out that stress control was one of my lowest scoring um, components of the assessment, and it is an aspect of my life that I think I can make some changes to. Dealing poor stress control can increase the risk of cancer, heart disease, skin conditions, gastrointestinal issues, as well as immune disorders. Stress is defined as the non-specific response of the body to any demands made upon it. The response that occurs can manifest in multiple ways. Often individuals experience muscle tension, anxiety, increased heart rate, and disruption in breathing. Like all things in life, stress is actually both beneficial as well as detrimental to our health. Eustress is the good version of stress. This is the experience felt after graduating from college, performing uh, well during an interview or in a performance. Distress is the bad version of stress. This form of stress leaves us feeling uh, frantic, causes us to become unsure of ourselves, or causes us to doubt our own ability to overcome a certain task. Whether it's physical, psychological, or environmental, the causes of stress are all referred as stressors. There are an infinite number of stressors in the world. What is a stressor for me may not be a stressor for an individual, and vice versa. When a stressor is encountered, the body generates a response by going through the general adaptation syndrome. The first phase of the syndrome is alarm. This is where the body identifies the stressor and activates the fight or fight response. Phase 2 is the resistance phase. This is where the body utilizes hormone secretions to deal with the stressor. And once the stressor has been dealt with, our body returns to our homeostatic state. Phase 3 is exhaustion, which is where the body is unable to resolve stress. If left unresolved, the stress can continue, and the exhausted state can result in death. Because the stress that occurs in our body is caused by an external source, um, uh, the response that our body has is manageable. There are literally unimaginable number of ways that humans deal with their stress, but no matter how different they all have similar concepts. Um, Usually, they require you to take control of a situation, practice positive thinking, take time to participate in hobbies, use physical exercise, consume a healthy, balanced diet, and or use diaphragmatic breathing for relaxation. This is a quick diagram to illustrate the phases of stress. We begin a homeostatic state. Stressor occurs where our body becomes alarmed. We begin heading up the peak through phase 2, which is resistance. Our body begins to uh, fight back, and we come down the peak where we begin to experience exhaustion. And We either split and recover from the stress, or we continue down exhaustion phase, and which could potentially lead to our death. My three culprits that are responsible for my stress and anxiety are marriage issues and academic or professional concerns. Usually my stress is caused by a combination of two or all three of them at the same time. My normal response to these stressors is anxiety. My level of anxiety has never reached a state of panic or reached a point where I felt that I was no longer in control. Anxiety is pretty common in my demographic. 57% of undergraduates have felt anxiety in the past 12 months. 54% also mention experiencing at least more than average or a tremendous amount of stress. And anxiety disorders are the most common diagnosed mental illness in the US for adults age 18 and older. My go-to method of stress management is intense physical exercise. I usually go for long runs, do heavy strength training, uh, or participate in hot yoga. These options are um, really healthy and beneficial methods to deal with stress, and I utilize them 95% of the time. The other 5%, and it could be less, I utilize consuming junk food and beer to help relieve with whatever stress I'm feeling at that point in time. Usually, after a very stressful week, after going through a fasting period, or just dealing with heavy loads of work and school, just felt like they were never going to end. Usually, it's 3 to 4 beers, consuming ice cream or some type of fried food. Alcohol use is a common method uh, used by people who experience anxiety. The method only temporarily reduces symptoms of anxiety and often worsens symptoms later on. 20% of individuals dealing with anxiety disorders also suffer from alcohol abuse. Alcohol abuse increases the risk of heart disease, cancer, liver, pancreas, and immune system complications. Binge eating or emotional eating is defined as the need to eat in response to a stressor that causes anxiety. When used as a person's primary coping mechanism, the rate of becoming overweight and or obese is dramatically increased. Individuals who engage in emotional eating often choose high caloric, high sodium, high sugar, and high fat foods, which are the foods that I often go for. Like alcohol, this form of stress relief briefly reduces symptoms and often increase symptoms of depression, which causes a downward spiral, making the individual become more stressed out, causing them to continue emotional eating, and it goes on and on and on. This method of stress relief often leads to obese, developing chronic diseases like heart disease or type 2 diabetes. Outcomes of these behaviors can lead to me becoming obese, developing some type of chronic illness, developing an alcohol addiction, or some type of liver pancreatic disease. Um, I honestly don't think that will occur, but because I do partake in these behaviors, there is a risk of these developing. The trans theoretical model is a 6-stage behavior change model. The first stage is pre-contemplation. The concept of stage is the individual has not yet been made aware that a change needs to occur, or they're in denial that a change needs to occur, or they view that behavior change is impossible due to their previously failed attempts. The use of health assessments are a beneficial way to help individuals identify their own health disparities, like the one I participated in at the beginning of this class that identified my lack of stress control. Contemplation is the next stage. This stage, the individual becomes aware that a change needs to occur. However, they have yet to actually take the appropriate steps to make this behavior change. To motivate this individual, increasing their understanding of why the change is beneficial helps them move to the next stage, which is preparation. In this stage, the individual starts making plans to take action in the direct future. During this stage, it's very important that the individual develops plans and goals that are realistic and actually measurable. One of the biggest mistakes individuals usually do is make an unrealistic goal, which often discourages them because the goal is so unrealistic that they fail immediately. The action stage is where the individual finally takes action for the behavior change. One of the important things to remember is to not only change your actions, but also change your environment. For me, if I were to be in the action stage, not only would I stop using alcohol or junk food to relieve stress, but I would also remove these items from my house so I wouldn't be tempted. Maintenance stage is similar to the action stage. During this stage, you continue the process of behavior change, sticking to your goals. During this stage, there is a possibility of going through relapse, which would then send you back to contemplation or even the pre-contemplation stage. And one of the last stages of this behavior change model is termination. At this stage, the individual has achieved their goal, they have completely changed their behavior, and have no intention of returning to their previous state. Many professionals see this stage as impossible, being the fact that individuals can experience relapse no matter how long they've actually changed their behavior. I think I'm in the contemplation stage. I understand that I can make some changes. I just don't have any plan to begin making those changes. If I was ready for the change, I'd already have my wellness assessed and know where I need to make the changes, which is my ability to manage stress. One strategy that can assist me is developing a plan to change, is identifying what activities actually cause the stress and what actually makes me want to binge eat or consume alcohol. A beneficial activity to help with this behavior change is adopting a hobby or